Okay, it's time for another modded Baldur's Gate 3 build guide, and this time we're looking at the Witch, and we're going to start with the Herbalist Witch. So this is that build guide. We're going to be going levels 1 to 12 with the combat tutorial and a list of items for you to use. And of course we have to start with the Witch class. Now notice that the spellcasting modifier for this is Intelligence. I thought it was going to be Charisma, I don't know why. It's not, it's Intelligence, I should know that. But for your spells, for level 1 we're going to take Minor Illusion. And we're going to create Lesser Water. 2 spells if you're following this guide level by level from the start of the game that I think are very helpful. If you're not, you might want to take something like Dancing Lights instead of Create Water, possibly even Arcane Blade if you want to be more melee, but we're going to use a Staff for this build. And for a first level spell we're going to take Mage Armor because what build isn't complete without Mage Armor. For your ability points we're looking at something like this. We want 8 Strength, 14 Dex to help with things like armor class, and if you do want to be a finesse weapon build, you could. I probably wouldn't suggest it. 16 constitution to help with the health pool and your concentration spells. 16 intelligence, and that's your wisdom, that's your spellcasting modifier. 10 wisdom and 10 charisma. For your skill proficiencies, I would probably recommend Arcana and Medicine. I don't usually do this, but there is a feature later on, a class ability, that lets you add your Medicine ability score to certain items or certain other abilities, so I would probably recommend Medicine and Arcana just for the sake of it. Okay, level 2 of which brings us our specialization as well as Witchcraft. So starting with level 2, Witches gain a small pool of Witchcraft points which grows every even level. Awful English. Witchcraft points can be used to spend to modify spells, cast witch-specific spells, and use some class features. So this is essentially just like sorcery points, I guess. For the sorcerer it's a little bit different, but that's the closest thing you can sort of rely it to. And because we're going to be a herbalist witch, we get experimental alchemy, so we can brew 2 alchemical solutions instead of 1. Now for a spell here, I would personally take Shillelagh. You're probably not going to use it that often, but if you do need to, be down and dirty and melee for some reason, at least you can turn your staff into a club. And for a spell slot here, we're going to take Lesser Regeneration, level 1 evocation spell, imbue a target with regeneration for 2 turns, cost 1 witchcraft in addition to spell slots. So bear that in mind, it will cost a spell slot and a witchcraft point, using up 2. Very, very important thing to keep track of. For a passive here, we're going to take Witchcraft Misfortune. So once per short rest, you may spend some witchcraft to imbue a target with great misfortune. Your targets gain advantage on their attack roll against your target. Again, awful English, but what it means is essentially that you put this onto a target, and then anyone that hits it gets advantage. And like I said, we're going to be the Herbalist. There are multiple other subclasses we will work our way through. And that brings us to Witch level 3 and more spells. And for this one, we are going to take Hold Person. I think this is one of the best spells in the game. I love this. Hold a creature, you can upcast it to target more. And if they do become held, because they fail their save DC, then any hit on them that is a melee-based attack will always be a critical hit. If you can land this, it's a very quick way to finish a fight. And we're also going to take Mirror Image just to boost up our AC. Basically, you'll create 3 duplicates of yourself. Each one adds 3 to your armor class. If you get hit, you lose 1 duplicate and you lose the +3 added until all 3 disappear and you go back to your normal AC. It also lasts for 10 turns, so it's a really nice way of just protecting yourself, especially if you have concentration on a spell. Okay, Witch level 4, you see we have more Witchcraft points because we're at an even level. And we get 1 more spell, and at this point I would take Witchcraft Boar. Really cool spell. It's basically kind of like polymorphing with the Druid, but it's for the Witch. And at this point you need to decide what sort of build you're going to be. If you want to be a Herbalist, specialization with Poison, or with Healing. Now I think with the passives you gain and the class features you gain, you get a lot of healing stuff anyway. I would personally go for Poison and balance yourself out. So your handling of poisons become advanced enough that you can safely throw grenades and spells you cast and attacks you make ignore resistances. If you look to the right hand side here, we have multiple things here. We now have a Poison Cluster Bomb, a Poison Cluster Grenade, a Poison Grenade, lots of cool stuff. Whereas if you would come down here, you get Revivify and Healing Word. In my opinion, I think the poison is the way to go. Think of it kind of like a Plague Doctor, I guess. And for your ability score improvement, that is what we're going to take for our feat, and we're going to bump our intelligence up to 18. Okay, Witch level 5 gives us the action of Nature's Aegis. You and any nearby allies take only half damage from spells. The aura disappears if you fall unconscious. This is a amazing class feature. Very, very defensive. For a spell here, there are again multiple options you can do. I would take either Stinking Cloud or Plant Growth. It's going to depend on your playstyle. Plant Growth is really good at making enemies slow at getting to you. So if you have like one frontliner and then you have like a bow ranger, bow rogue, and your witch who casts spells from afar, you might want to go for Plant Growth just because it will stop enemies being able to move to you. You can pick them off. If you have like a mix of a party or you switch them in and out, then I'll probably take Stinking Cloud. Create a cloud of gas so nauseating it prevents creatures from taking actions, and this does tie very thematically in with the whole poison witchcraft-esque thing. Okay, Witch level 6, and we have more witchcraft points. We also gain Witch Form Panther, Mass Healing Word, and Regeneration. So this is what I'm talking about. This is why I think it's worthwhile taking the poison as your passive instead of the healing, because you would have got lesser healing word, but we now have mass healing word anyway. Okay, for a spell here, I would take Witch's Boon. Grant all allies you can see regeneration for 3 turns while removing disease, poison paralysis, and blindness. Really, really good ability. And for a passive, we're going to come all the way down here, and at this point, I would use... Okay, and as a class passive here, I would take Witchcraft Poison Darts. Once per short rest, you can shoot 5 poison darts, dealing and potentially inflicting cursed poison. And for a class passive, lots of good options. As I said, having the medicine skill to be able to do poison mastery is always good. You've got healing mastery if you really wanted it. You could do medium armor if you really want to. Like, all of these are actually really good depending on your build. For example, Kismet's Eye is really good. You could throw darkness down yourself and then you can just blast people from it. Very good thing that a lot of Warlock builds will do. For me personally, I would go either Poison Mastery to get the 2 extra damage, or Healing Mastery. For me, I'm going to take Poison. Okay, Witch level 7, we have more spells we can now do, and we're going to take Evard's Black Tentacles. I put this on my top 10 list of spells, and it still remains there. I think it is phenomenal. It is great for keeping enemies stuck, smothering them, attacking. It's just a phenomenal spell. This and Hunger of Adar combined saved my ass on so many runs of this game. Okay, Witch level 8, we have more witchcraft points, and we get more spells here. For this one, we're going to take Blight. 8 to 64 necromancy damage, or necrotic damage, I should say. And for class passive, we are going to take Grim Harvest. So once per turn, if you kill a creature with a spell, you gain hit points equal to twice the spell slot level used thrice if it's a necromancy spell. And for your feat or ASI, we're going to take the ASI and take our intelligence up to 20. Witch level 9 brings us closer to the max level cap, and at this point we're going to take Contagion, another necromancy spell, poison a target and possibly inflict them with a disease of your choice, another really good concentration spell. For a class passive, we're actually going to be a little bit out of the blue here, and we're going to take Witchcraft Implosion. So once per short rest, you can spend a bit of power to create a hole in the universe, sucking in all targets. So you could do this, and then if you have another spellcaster, throw a fireball on them, or something like that, and it will just group all the enemies together, meaning your AoEs, or if you need to group people together because your more squishy characters have aggroed, you have this option. Witch level 10, we get more witchcraft points, and another spell to choose from, and we're going to take Dominate Person. Witch level 11, we end up with a Blessed Healer. Healing others heals you as well. Again, another reason it's just worth taking the poison feature. You could really make this a bit of a cleric build if you wanted to, and just go all healing, but I think having the balance is really cool, and the poison damage is pretty good. For a 6th level spell, we are going to take Circle of Death, another really good necrotic based spell. For a spell here, we are going to take Greater Jinx, and now this is an incredible spell. Necromancy spell. Arcane Energy assails your foes, deals 6 to 24 necrotic damage, and inflicts Jinx to your targets to fail to save. Now, this lasts for 3 turns, and Jinx suffers disability on attack rolls and ability checks. It's a great spell. And for your class passive here, we are going to take Witchcraft Twinned Spell, meaning we can spend a Witchcraft point, and if we have a spell that would only target 1 enemy, we can now target 2. And our final level, level 12, we end up with more Witchcraft points, as you could probably guess by now. And another spell we can take here. So at this point, we are going to take Hero's Feast. Just a nice way of buffing up your allies if you need to. We're going to take Illusionary Self as a class passive, so you can magically fashion an illusory duplicate of yourself when you are attacked, causing your foe to automatically miss that attack. And for a feat, now there's a few options. You could take your ASI and bump your Charisma up to 18, bump your Dex up to 16. You could take Alert, so you get the +5 to Initiative and can't be surprised. You could dual wield, and you could take 2 staffs if you wanted to. You could take Elemental Adapt, because you've got a bunch of different options. You could take Resilient Constitution if you wanted to. For me, I would take Warcaster. Reason being is it will give us a melee-based spell that we can use as a reaction or an opportunity attack, and it will give us advantage on saving throws to maintain concentration. Okay, so let's go over our equipment, and we're looking at Browbeaten Circlet for headwear. There again, +1 bonus to spell save DC while threatened. For a cloak, we're going to take the Cloak of the Weave, so you gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. We also gain Absorb Elements, so once per short rest, take half damage from the next elemental attack targeting you, and do an additional 1d6 of that element on your next attack. For boots, we're going to take the Boots of Genial Striding, so we're unimpeded by difficult terrain. For a robe, we're going to take the Robe of the Weave, gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. We also gain Weave Eater, so whenever the wearer succeeds a saving throw against the spell, we regain 1 to 6 hit points, and a +2 to our armor class. Now to bulk us out a little bit more, the Braces of Defense, again a +2 bonus to armor class, as long as you're not holding armor or holding a shield. For rings, I really like the Shifting Corpus ring. It gives you invisibility and blur. Essentially, if you start to get threatened and you don't want to use a spell slot, you could use one of these to help yourself out. We're also going to take the Crypt Lord ring, because I think this thematically works really well with the Witch build, and honestly, I kind of like minions. If this isn't your kind of thing, that's absolutely fine. Take something that boosts your cantrip damage or something like that. But I just think minions and witchcraft go very nicely together. For an amulet, the Spellcrux amulet, this is probably a must-have for any spellcaster, but just a spell slot restoration, meaning you get free use of a spell slot. So if you class your level 9 spell slot, then this will boost it out. And Marco Shear is a staff, so you gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Gain Arcane Battery, so alleviate the arcane burn of spell casting. The next spell doesn't cost a spell, just like this one. So you get 2 free spell slots now, meaning you can blast out those level 6 spell slots if you wanted to. We also get Weapon Enchantment +2 and Kreshka's Favour as an ability. And if we come into here, imbue yourself with elemental energy sourced by the chronic goddess Kreshka. So that is my build guide. Let's go find some combat and show it off. Okay, so when you come out of your camp or whatever after you've long rested, first thing to do is mage armor yourself up, boost that AC, keep yourself protected. If you wanted to, you could also come into here and use your staff or your Spellcrux amulet. For example, if we were to go, we'll use the Spellcrux amulet for this. So after you leave camp, if you really wanted to, you could come into Hero's Feast and watch everyone's AC. You'll see what happens here. You will see we all gained extra health and all sorts, and because we can, Spellcrux amulet spell slot restoration, restore that level 6 spell slot, and there you go, we have everything back apart from the level 1 spell slot we used for mage armor. Okay, you can see we're in combat and we have everyone here, so let's start showing off how the witch works. So there are lots of things we need to show off, lots of really good options too. So first things first, let's show off some of the class features. And we're going to start with Witchcraft Implosion. So again, this only works on a short rest, but let's just put it on to this one. 55% chance, we're going to risk it. And there you go, see we pulled them closer. It's kind of like Thorn Whip in a way. And then this would set you up if you have an AoE, you could just drop an AoE on them. Now you can see they've hit us with a spell, so we get to show off our illusionary self. So if we do this, and a big miss. Okay, so more class features we can show off, and let's do our Poison Cluster Bomb. Now apparently, because we have disadvantage because we're mobile, that's not ideal. In that case, we shall... Obviously you need to play this more tactically, I'm just trying to show off the features. We're going to aim at this one, and it's going to target the whole area here. So, select the option. And there you go, and you can see we did a huge amount of poison damage to this target here, and poisoned the enemy here. And what's really good about this is we could do Shillelagh, just show off. And if we wanted to, we could smack them with a thicker staff. Now, obviously, the good thing about doing this is I can now show you the healing capabilities of the witch build as well. But obviously, don't attack your own people, play more tactically. I'm just showing you how these features will work in combat. Okay, so here we are in here, and we have multiple spells we can do. We could do a mass healing word. We could do a witch's boon, which will grant all allies regeneration. So this is a nice little class feature, so let's throw that up. And there you go, we have that regeneration going. We also could do a mass healing word if we wanted to as our bonus action. We'll see the healing capabilities here. So there you go. And look, all the health we just regained from healing our allies. Now you see we healed up again at the start of our turn, which is perfect. And we still have a plethora of options we can do. We have our witch form panther, we have our boar, but we still have our poison grenades. So again, we can just throw this. And you'll see we targeted more than one person, so we hit Tuxtrin and we also hit Skeeb with it. And we still have the ability, we can come in here with our bonus action and keep mass healing word. We can also do Nature's Aegis. So for example, if we were to do this, there you go, now everyone is near to us and ourselves will only take half damage from spells until we fall, and with the spellcaster in battle, it's a very helpful skill. Now we took the Witchcraft Poison Darts, so again we can take this, and let's throw it on the Barbarian at the back. Now you see we did miss a few, but we did also get Cursed Poison for 5 turns. And like I said, we do have Shillelagh, so we can smack this one. And there you go, that would be how your Shillelagh would work. Now again, we have other spells such as Greater Jinx. So if we were to class this onto this enemy, look at the damage we provided there. We also healed up for 18, thanks to having necrotic damage. And we get to show off our Warcaster, and this is why we took it. 17 damage. Now, we have our twin spell, so if we were to activate this, we could then come back in here and we have loads of spells we could choose from. So for example, if we were to do Greater Jinx again, we can click this and we can target both of the enemies here. And we've absolutely melted one of them and caused a huge amount of damage to the other. It is now jinxed, and if we were to remind ourselves what that does, so it's disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. And bear in mind, this is not even using all of our battlefield controls or half of our healing capabilities. Now when I speak about battlefield control, hold person, things like this are incredible. So if we were to cast this, and let's see if we can target both the remaining enemies. Hold person, upcast it to level 3, target them, and target them. Now one of them saved, but this one hasn't. So what that basically means is now any hit on this one while they're held will be a critical hit. And if you can land this on as many enemies as possible, you will control the battlefield on round 1. It is an incredible spell. And if you have a barbarian or a warrior that can hit really hard, you will punish enemies immediately. For example, if we come up here now with our rogue and do our normal attack, there you go, we melted them. And because the items we're using, we actually gain a plus 10 temporary hit points if we land a critical hit. So if you compare this really nicely with some of your weapons on your other characters, you are going to pile out the damage. And again, we still have other big spells we can do that we haven't. We have more battlefield controls like Evar's Black Tentacle, like a Stinking Cloud. But we also have things like Blight that can do amazing damage. So that is the really awesome witch subclass, or sorry, witch class for Baldur's Gate 3, more importantly the Herbalist one. Really, really good healer, really good poison, and Greater Jinx is just a great spell. You will need to keep track of your witchcraft points and your spell slots just like you would a sorcerer, so as long as you're used to that you should be okay. But it's just a really fun build. Again, more of a build that you do have to play very tactically. Could be a cleric-esque build, could be a DPS. I like kind of balance. But if you have enjoyed, please drop the episode a like. It helps me amazingly. Let me know in the comments what other items you'd use, what other abilities, all that fun stuff. If you're new and you haven't already, please subscribe as well. It helps me tremendously, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.